Give you guys a little bit of an update on something that we talked about several weeks ago, which is Cindy's journey really with something we're calling toxic breast. And we want to give an update on that because we do have some updates to talk about. So, do you want to kind of start
Yeah,
off and
yeah,
then?
I can.
Yep. Oh, first of all, wait, before we do that, we
Yeah,
need
you
to
go
talk
ahead.
about our sponsor. So, our sponsor is Neighborhood Nutrition. Neighborhood Nutrition will be opening November the
Seventh.
7th in Ada, Oklahoma. We're right on Highway 19 and County Road 3520. And we'll be offering thermography, bioresonance, nutritional snacks and beverages, and lunch and breakfast.
CBD and a dispensary.
Yes.
Don't forget that part. This is a very new concept for the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah, this will be what. So, as some of you know, Cindy and I were pretty involved in making medical marijuana happen in Oklahoma. So, this is what we envisioned what it would look like. Okay, and won't be any big green crosses, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's the way that we want to do it and how we want to help people. So, anyway, but thank you to Neighborhood Nutrition. Thank you, Cindy,
You're welcome.
for sponsoring our show. So. Okay, now let's get into it. So sorry, but let's go ahead with the update.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for bringing this topic on to Chip Talks because I think it's a subject that a lot of women are scared to learn about, especially if they suspect they're affected with it. But it's also a subject that doctors don't really understand. And you can't go get a blood test, or anything like that to understand what's actually going on inside of you. What we're learning is it's more of an immune attack. And so that's what I'm dealing with, and other women are dealing with that. Some women have more severe issues than me. So for me, I'm wanting to find an alternative way to feel better and to get my life back, because I feel like just every day is kind of a management issue, and not understanding why it's happening or where it's coming from is scary and confusing. So that's why I think that, this journey that we're going down is warranted to kind of let more people know about it, because some women may opt to dramatic things like explant. And some of the women have to do that. There's cancers that are formed and things like that. But if you are on more the benign side of, the illness, then I'm wanting to find a new strategy with your help. And I think that what we've been doing so far is really giving me my life back.
Okay, well, that's cool. So, and let's talk about a little bit about kind of what this is. So, if I put something in your body, something that doesn't belong there, and it could be, a spinal implant, which Cindy also
That too.
has, or it could be a breast implant, or it could be, a butt cheek implant, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But if I put something external in your body is going to understand that, and your body is going to try to attack that thing and defend against that thing. So how does it do that? Well, it might encapsulate that thing, and that's generally what happens, is your body will sort of form a mucus around it, and then it'll understand that it's not harmful really, and it will just kind of leave it alone. But it takes work from your immune system, and again, it takes energy and resources and all that. Now, what can go wrong? Well, if you have another infectious disease, let's say, okay, and so here's the thing, 95% of us have something called Epstein-Barr. We used to call it mononucleosis back in my day, but now we've got a fancy new name for it. It's called Epstein-Barr. So if you kissed anyone in your lifetime, you probably have Epstein-Barr. If you're nerdy like me and live in your basement, then you might be okay.
Until you met me.
Until I met her, and then we started kissing a lot. We swap that stuff all the time. But anyway, so, most of us have Epstein-Barr. Most of us are exposed to something called pylori. This is just stuff that happens to us. And if our immune system is weak, these little bugs take hold and they infect us. So we get an infectious disease. How many of us are infected with some infectious disease? All of us.
Yikes.
All of us.
That's
All of
mind-blowing.
us. So believe me, you're infected with some kind of infectious disease. If you want me to prove it to you, come down here and I'll put you on the bioresonance and we'll show you what infectious disease you're infected with. But most of these come from bacteria. And again, most of them stay dormant, so they don't really bother us, right? But if I put something foreign in your body and you have an immune reaction, everything else is weakened, right? And these little bugs can go active. And that's what it looks like happens in most of these cases. Certainly looks like what's happening with Cindy, is that she has, it could have been the result of having these things put in. She kind of got the infectious disease when she was opened up. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. But, everyone has an infectious disease. Cindy has one. And so it appears that the problems that she's having are associated more with this infectious disease than they are her breast implants. But the breast implants could be weakening your immune system, if that makes sense, and allowing this stuff to bloom. So,
but how do you know all that in me? Right?
Yeah,
that's the thing that we're trying to help other people understand.
And so one of the things that we found out, and I'll kind of show you guys this real quick. So this is thermal imaging, and I think I can zoom in here. I definitely can do it that way. Let's go way in. Okay. So this is thermal imaging, and this is one of the reasons why we like this tool so much. And this is Cindy, and again, this is Cindy in her underwear, so thank you for being brave. But this gives us a lot of information. So and again, this isn't all the information it gives, but I'll just sort of relate it to this issue. I'll walk you through some things. So these pictures are relative, so when we compare like these pictures to these pictures, the temperature is going to be a little different, but I'll talk you through that in a second. But anyway, if we look at the sort of a section right between your eyes, gives a good indication of our mean body temperature. And again, that varies. So she's a little bit, 98.6 is what we think of as normal. Today, on this day, standing against this wall with the activity that she'd done and, whatever she'd eaten or whatever, she was 96.7. So that's not, abnormal in any way. It's just is what it is at the time we took the picture. But the big thing is we can use that to make some comparisons, okay? So nothing in your body really should be hotter than that 96 degrees or what your temperature is. And you'll notice that the hands, okay, so 96.7, her hands are cooler than her mean body temperature, and that's the way that you should look. But you should not have an area, and you can see even in the picture, how much heat there is in her gut area, all the way around her gut area here. And it's hotter than her mean temperature, which means that she has something going on here, inflammation, or, and we know it's inflammation, but it could be a cancer, it could be other things, but we know it's inflammation. You can also see the liver area. And again, the liver area is very hot here. And this is, again, indicative of inflammation and her body and her immune system being very active and trying to fight something off. You can also see this area of comparison is also hot, right? So this area is hot. We would expect to see, if it were her breasts, and again, her breasts aren't, basically imaged here. She's got on a top, but we would expect to see this area much, much, much hotter, and areas of little hotness if she was really had something going on there, like cancer or something like that. And again, this is not a diagnostic tool. This tool just gives indications of things, but it can give indications of a whole lot of things. So, if something showed up here, I would immediately send her to, doctor, right? So yeah, radiologist where we get evaluated. So again, this is a relative picture, so we can't really go by her mean body temperature from the other picture. But what we can do is we can tell that this is definitely an area of heat above her. So this is kind of her lymph nodes. And we can compare this area, kind of top and bottom. So, this is 96.1. And again, we come around to the other side. And we've got, again, similar temperature up in the lymph nodes, which is to be expected. But that's compared to a significantly less temperature under her left breast. So again, if she had something going on with the breast implants, then those temperatures would be similar under the left and under the right, so to speak. And you've got you've got almost a degree difference in those two. So this just indicates that, again, this is the area of your liver, that something is going on there. She's fighting something. So that's kind of what I wanted to, and that's, how do you know? Well, we have to utilize tools, and we have another tool called bioresonance. Bioresonance is what has identified like bacterial infections in me, bacterial infections in her.
That's what identified the Epstein-Barr.
And that's what identified Epstein-Barr as the likely culprit here. And again, most of us, I have Epstein-Barr, you have Epstein-Barr, 95% of us have mononucleosis, or Epstein-Barr as we like to call it.
The kissing disease.
Yes, the kissing disease. So now, interestingly, how do we treat it? Well, it turns out, and again, this is observational, this is kind of based on Cindy, but I will tell you that this is pretty solid. It's looking like what this disease does and why it's so persistent. So most bacterial infections, let's say, and again, bacterial infections can be thought of as infectious diseases if you can't get rid of them, okay? So most bacterial infections you can get rid of with antibiotics or, garlic, some form of strong natural antibiotic. In some cases, they're persistent or a little bit more persistent. But Epstein-Barr is very persistent. And it probably lives in our white blood cells, our macrophages, and that's why it can kind of survive for so long. So when it goes active, it's really interesting what it does. It looks like it hijacks part of the cholesterol pathway. And so what we've done is we've figured out that if we can, it hijacks that cholesterol pathway, it causes disruption in other areas. And so one of the things that if you have active Epstein-Barr is pregnenolone, we found is a very good supplement, which is kind of the first breakdown of cholesterol, and it seems to be helping a lot. The other thing that we found is pigments really help. So riboflavin is vitamin B, and so Cindy's benefit quite a bit from riboflavin. And then the other thing is vitamin D. Vitamin D is something we all should probably be supplementing with, and vitamin D really helps us in our body be able to do bacterial, control. So if you're fighting some kind of infectious disease or bacterial infection, antibiotics are pretty good. Antibiotics kind of do you're better off with natural, honestly, garlic and things like that. If you've got to go pharma after you take those antibiotics, make sure you,
support your gut.
Yeah, basically get our gut product would be the best thing to do. Or, call us and let's have a conversation to rebuild your gut back proper. But anyway, we're finding that strategies that work, and we absolutely are understanding Epstein-Barr and kind of the progressions of these infectious diseases a lot better. So.
Yeah, and the symptoms that affect me are more in the urinary. So a lot of people are probably wondering, well, what kind of symptoms do you have? Well, mine is what we're discovering is called interstitial cystitis, which is kind of when your Epstein-Barr gets kind of out of control, it kind of creates more issues, and it kind of attacked my urinary system, which makes it a little bit painful to you go to the restroom, which is a little embarrassing to say, but this is something a lot of women deal with, and they may not understand what it is. So look at something called interstitial cystitis if you have any kind of urinary problems. And what it's pain. It's a lot of pain when you in the bladder, in your stomach area. So that's why my stomach looked a little hot. That's really my bladder, because it's very painful to urinate sometimes.
Yeah, and what that picture was showing is the inflammation that's causing her. If you think about your urinary, there we go. You've got a hole that goes through. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a woman. If you got inflammation around that, that's going to close off that hole. And what interstitial cystitis is it cysts, but the cysts get inflamed. They get active, and when they get active, they can close up that hole. And so, how do we fight that? Well, again, we can...
diet has been the best strategy.
Yeah, and again, understanding the cause of the inflammation. Inflammation doesn't just happen. My interstitial cystitis is going to flare up. Doesn't work that way. It has to have an agent. Something has to be causing the inflammation, which is Epstein-Barr, little bugs, bacteria, right? So, again, getting to those bugs, getting to the cause is what we're ultimately after. I will tell you this, again, so how do we eradicate this? I'm looking right now at 1950s technology, and it's something called, and the nice thing about this is it was done with light, with UV light, and used to be you had to generate some pretty harmful waves, let's say like x-rays, to be able to get to the UV range that I need to get to. Well, now they make LEDs that'll do it, which is great. So if you're interested in this, or you want to kind of research something on your own, look at something called photophoresis. And what it is they would take out your blood, like dialysis, but kind of take out your blood, and they'd zap it with UV, this certain kind of UV that will kill everything. It actually sort of damages a little bit the blood, and that's why they have to do it outside the body. And then, but the blood reorganizes, and the blood sort of regenerates and comes back without bacteria. And it turns out if you do 7%, and it was a very specific number, more than this is not really effective, less than this is not effective at all. But if you do about 7% of your blood, that's money. And they were curing, C-U-R-I-N-G, curing many diseases that we suffer from right now. And that work got shut down by... Wait for it.
I bet it's, I guess I
it's
bet
the
I
B
guess
word. Vaccines. Vaccines. Shut down that entire work. So anyway, I think I can do this right through here with UV light, with LEDs. But don't tell anybody. Shh. Intellectual property.
Secret.
Yeah, and I don't, frankly, I probably will intellectual property it, but if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. I'm not going to publicly disclose my methods ever, though. So, yeah. Oh, anyway. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at.
Something that we're really focused on is diet. You haven't touched on that yet.
Yep.
But so I have kind of culinary background, and that's, some part of neighborhood nutrition is I'm bringing my culinary background to life. But I'm really using my knowledge to treat my body holistically with food. Food should be our medicine. And so what I'm doing is I'm having to eat specific diets, cutting out sugar. I only drink water, and I had some coffee the last 2 days, and it's affecting me. So no coffee. Yeah, no coffee for you. Sorry. Go back to the hot tea for a couple of days.
I'm good with the tea.
But that's what I'm learning is I'm understanding what my body will tolerate and what it won't. So it will not tolerate fried food. And it does not tolerate coffee very well because of the caffeine. I have to stay away from caffeine.
Well, allergic to coffee.
That was on the biofield reading. It did show that I was allergic to caffeine. So I cut out coffee a long time ago, but I was craving it. Because here at Neighborhood, I'm doing coffee, so I wanted some. But that's been the hardest. One hard thing is to kind of cut out certain foods that I really love. Even pickles and jalapenos, my sriracha, all those things I love. Lemon in my water. I can't do those things.
Oh, yeah. And one thing about this disease that's really interesting, just while she's bringing this up. So you're going to hear me talk and us talk a lot about fasting and fed here at Neighborhood Nutrition. I mean, it's a behavior that you can change that will absolutely and completely just alter and change your life. So again, that's why we talk about it a lot. Well, interestingly, Epstein-Barr, so when you're fasting, Epstein-Barr gets active. That's when it pops hot. And it's really, most bacteria begin to die when you start fasting. So your body goes through these processes where you start engulfing them and killing them, and you're producing this stuff that'll basically kill most bacteria. But some of these more sophisticated ones, like Epstein-Barr, they understand when your body makes this flip, and they go active. So they start eating your cholesterol. One of the things that when you're fasting, you start burning cholesterol. And by burning, what I mean is you're breaking down cholesterol that's in your blood, and you're using it to build things or build estrogen or testosterone or whatever. But that's what Epstein-Barr likes. So it hijacks that and starts eating your cholesterol, which is kind of sugary, I guess, in a way, or it gets in the middle of that pathway somehow. And I'm not sure. Again, if you want to give me $100,000 to go research it, I'll go find out exactly the answer. But that's observationally, let's say, what we're seeing, which is interesting. So that develops a whole new strategy for kind of how to deal with this bug. And again, you have to understand that and do some supplementation so that you don't want it active until we can get rid of it. But taking out your breasts, if you have Epstein-Barr, will not get rid of
Epstein-Barr.
Epstein-Barr.
I'm always going to have it. So I don't want to put my body through that trauma if I don't have to. So if I'm going to live with this, I'm going to live with the boobs too. So I'm not going to get rid of them until, one of them pops. So that's just, my body is, it's been through a lot of trauma. I've had several neck surgeries, and I've got some issues in my hip. I've had toe surgeries, and I just don't want to put my body through that again and go through that healing and antibiotics and all of that. So we've got a good strategy, I think, and I'm maintaining myself every day, and it's management. So every day I drink a lot of herbs. We get up in the morning, I drink 60 milliliters of an herbal concoction that Chip makes, and then I take my capsules and my tablets, and then at noon I take them all again, and then right before dinner I take them all again. So I take a lot of herbs, and I don't take any pharmaceuticals at all. I'm simply herbs, CBD. I use medical cannabis because I get nauseated a lot. I'll be doing nothing, just all of a sudden get a wave of nausea, and so it's just that if I didn't have my supplements every day and my good diet and all of that, I think I'd be way, way worse. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, most of us are in kind of a degraded state. Most of us, we have 3 gears as a human, right? So first, second, third gear. First gear is if you eat a lot of sugar, you're going to be in first gear all the time. Second gear is more where you're running on fat and your mitochondria are running on fat. Again, you have to not eat for 5 hours to get into that mode. And most of us eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, never really get there for maybe a couple hours at night. But gear number 2 is where we want to be. Interestingly, gear number 2 is where Epstein-Barr seems to go active. So it's fighting that sucker back has been quite interesting. But we've learned a lot through the process. Yeah. And, these bugs are sophisticated. They've stayed around for a long time. They know how to survive. They know how to survive inside of you. But one of the things that medical science is going to have to figure out is how to eradicate you from bacterial infection. What you've been told about infectious disease and the NIH and what Dr. Fauci does is that is a creation. Those are created things. Allergy is a creation. You don't believe me? Find a dictionary, 1900. Look for the word allergy. It's not there. Look for the word anaphylactic shock. It's not there. You won't find it because allergies were created, 1907. Anyway.
Well, I think another thing that you brought attention to just real briefly is that when we started fasting, that's what kind of triggered everything for me.
Yeah.
That was what
kicked
everything off. So I think Chip Talks needs to kind of do another one on fasting and some of the dangers behind it.
Yeah,
you really
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Want to just start fasting without understanding where your health is at right now.
Yeah.
And, you got to do it kind of baby steps. You don't want to go fast for 18 hours your first day. You need to just fast for 8 hours or something.
And you almost have to prepare. And again, we'll learn more about this. I mean, this is going to be a big area of, let's say, nutritional health, national interest down the road. It will all, be talking a lot about fasting. But, what state should you be in before you fast? You need to have proper fat stores for sure. Again, fasting will get rid of a lot of your fat, and so the fat that you do have needs to be properly modeled. So when you are fasting, if you're doing like intermittent fasting, you need to pay attention to the fats that you're eating because again, you're modeling your fat, right? And that's super important. And we have no education on that, right? I mean, I can educate you on that, but there's no, government, state, any of that education on what types of fats we need to eat. You can do your own research like I have, and you can go study what a bear eats and a dog eats and how they model their fat in the wild and, gorilla, things like that. So all that's good information for us, but it still needs to be researched and demonstrated in humans, that's more beneficial. But anyway, we're on this, and we have this knowledge and this science, and we can really, use it to help you, and that's what we want to do.
Yeah. So hopefully my journey will help somebody else discover theirs. And if anybody has questions or anything. I've had some ladies that have messaged me through Facebook, so I'm very reachable. Facebook, Instagram, and my cell phone number is on my Facebook page. So just feel free to text or call and ask questions. Ask me what I'm doing. If you need advice, I'm happy to give it. I've got a really good friend who actually went through the explant procedure, and so I'm learning a lot from her journey, and then I'm kind of adding to that with my journey. That way I can help others. And it's a scary thing, but there's some great groups. Breast Implant Illness of Oklahoma is a good group for women to join if you don't know what's going on. But there's a list of doctors you can find if you want to talk to a doctor. The one I was going to is Dr. Archibald Miller in Tulsa, and there's another one named Dr. Ho in Tulsa. So those are the only two I'm aware of. There's more in Oklahoma City. Kunkel, I think, is Dr. Kunkel, I think was his name. But it's becoming more mainstream, I guess, but still there's not a lot of answers.
Yeah, even the FDA, put out a statement about it here in the last couple of weeks.
And I posted the report that they put out on each different type of implant and what they're suspecting.
Now, one thing to be advised, that if you have silicone implants and you have silicone leaking in your body, that you need to address that. So
silicone is the most dangerous.
Yeah, silicone is the most dangerous. And again, if that's leaking in you, I just literally read a study this morning about silicon dioxide, which they use as nanoparticles. It can build up in your liver and cause mitochondrial dysfunction, exactly like what autistic people have. So, is that the cause of autism? No, I don't think so. But again, it can cause autistic-like symptoms in you. So
I feel ADHD sometimes. I really do. I'm just like this brain fog. What was I doing yesterday? What was I about to do?
Well, you are a cannabis patient. No.
I do. Well, there's that.
Kidding though. That's cannabis actually makes you smarter. So I can. We'll do a chip talks on that.
Yeah, one of the symptoms that women are showing is brain fog, and it's also caused by COVID and other things. So brain fog isn't the only symptom, but I do feel like I have it.
Yeah. So we'll keep you guys updated on this. Again, we'll keep you. I haven't really talked about my journey. I'll talk about my journey sometime. But
I think that needs to be next.
Yeah, relatively. I'll talk about my psychological journey. That's more impactful than my health
That'll be
journey.
A series.
Yeah. Because it ain't easy being us. Let's just say that. So we go through some serious hell, but we do it for you guys. And we do it because we love God, and we do it because we're trying to follow God's orders and bring about what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, there is a higher purpose.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so we'll leave it for there now. See you guys. Tune in next Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that we're going to do, is it going to be Wellness Wednesday or Medical Monday?
Yes, Medical Mondays.
Medical Mondays.
Yeah.
Okay. So on Monday, Chip Talks is going to be all over the place. So you've heard me talk about hydrogen, you've heard me talk about God, you've heard me talk about the sun, you've heard me talk about the human body, about diseases and all that. Chip Talks will be Chip. So you're going to get kind of what I'm thinking about and, what's running through my head at the moment. Medical Monday will be more specific to medical, let's say, disease states.
Thermography, our biofield, everything that we can provide that's medical.
And we'll talk more about, we'll do a show on diabetes, we'll do a show on RA. So we'll talk more about specific disease states and kind of how you can, utilize the tools that we have or really change your behavior. Again, I'm always going to tell you how you can change your behavior and your diet to fix yourself. But if you want to kind of make it easy and do it sciencey and use our tools, then we'll tell you kind of how we can do that and help you along.
All right.
All right. Let's leave it there.
We're all going to shut it down.
Yeah. See you guys. We'll see you next Friday and then Mondays after that too.